you're still out here being able to think for yourselves. So we've got a short window here to go ahead and grab a hold of this and do something about it.
Well, it's a sad thing to hear that Tommy got arrested again, but the only good thing out of this, it's going to strengthen his following. Every time the authorities come down on him unjustly, it's going to add to his numbers. All right, I've been running into a lot of people from the UK and Scotland, Ireland here recently. But this is a video I've had in the bucket for about a month that is a group of kids from, young men from the UK who were intelligent enough to carry on a conversation with. I believe they've been pretty much propagandized against Tommy. And because they would listen, I did my best to go ahead and get the background, trying to give some foundation to why Tommy's doing what he's doing and the forces against him on a larger scale, because I think these guys could have absorbed it, and I think they might have. They asked good questions. I tried to respond the best I could, and I think I turned them on some things I've never heard before. Anyway, let's pray for Tommy, his family. Let's get out there and support him. And let's get into this video. See you on the other side.
I'm not sure we all share the beliefs of Tommy Robinson. But,
well, that's all right. I mean, if everybody was the same, it'd be a pretty damn boring, existence. But for the most part, I think, the man's speaking truth to power. He's trying to, at least he's saying what he believes in. He stands up for it. How do you feel about him? What's your belief?
I think his analysis of Quran is a bit ropey. There's a few holes in it.
Which would it be? What give me an example?
When he goes back through kind of the writings about like the oppression of women, like in the Quran, and he takes them at kind of face value and says that Western Muslims automatically believe that. I think if you go back through the Bible, there's similar stuff that maybe people don't believe in now.
What I'm looking at is the geopolitical aspects of how they're using the different cultures to have a war on. There's a class of cultures. Brzezinski wrote the book, the class of culture. And what the neocons wanted to do was use this class of cultures to create chaos. So it's called problem, reaction, solution. That way they can create a problem, wait for the reaction, and they come in with the solution.
Who's doing this?
Well, that would be the powers that be. You see, the
global cabal.
Well, yeah, the neoliberal cabal, but more than that, what's been in the lexicon over the past few years is nationalism against globalism. And globalism, like in the aspect of Brexit. Brexit was all about, forming these economic blocks is sort of like putting us into this globalization where we have a one world currency and more national, international corporations wind up ruling us rather than our nation states. So we lose our individuality. Well, part of that was to homogenize or just bring down different cultures to make, to a lowest common denominator. Well, you do that by getting different factions to war against one another within themselves. So I think what Tommy Robinson's trying to say is that when you bring in a culture too fast, and is not allowed to assimilate, but winds up clashing and then overtaking the culture it's breed into, that's creating the problem that the powers that be will use to then come in with their militarization and take over.
Do you not think that's slightly hypocritical from him, though? Because he's arguably creating quite a bit of division with his views. I mean, he's not been the best person at helping.
I think the division is already there. I think he's bringing out the fact that, in the same look, he's got Muslims with him that are, we'll just say, moderate Muslims, who recognize that the extreme Muslims, the radical Muslims, are the ones being used by these elements to create this clash.
Yeah.
And they're both together trying to make people aware that the powers above are playing us.
Yeah.
They're playing these cultures off of one another. So I think anytime, and I look at, you got to look at who your enemies are. When I see people the powers that be trying to shut someone up, I'm looking at that person they're trying to shut up and what they're trying to say. Because I'm not trusting the powers that be to give me the truth.
Yeah.
I know what they're out for. They're out for total dominance and control. So anytime someone speaks up to them, speaks to the powers that be, and they try to crush those people, I got to figure they got to be saying something right. And that's what I'm looking at Tommy Robinson doing.
Yeah.
I mean, why would they keep on, it's like with InfoWars. Why would they shut up InfoWars? Well, no one's forcing you to go to InfoWars and listen to them.
Yeah.
So why would they shut them out? Obviously, they're saying something they don't want you to hear.
Yeah. Where do you think this power is kind of manifesting itself? Like, is there anybody you think is part of that conspiracy?
Oh, sure. I mean, in the lexicon now is the deep state.
Yeah.
Well, the deep state is definitely there. It's part of it. I mean, you can look at the secret and semi-secret societies, the Club of Rome, the Council of Foreign Relations, it all bleeds back. If you really want, and of course it all bleeds back to the bankers, the international bankers. The Bank of International Settlements out of London, owned by the Rothschilds, is probably the top, the big one. Because it is, again, about creating a one world monetary system. Because once they do that, they got us by the kahunas. And then when it goes into, it becomes a cashless society, it would really dead. Because then they can go ahead and we don't like your views. Click. And you can't buy anything, you can't sell anything, you can't live in society. They can cut you off that way and starve you to death. So this, again, it's about control. You got to remember, with this technology that they have now, Hitler would love this technology. We'd all be speaking German if Hitler had this technology back then. But so the powers that be that funded Hitler are still there. They didn't get rid of them. They're still trying to create that one world system that they're in control of. You got to recognize these people are not normal. They're not like us. They're psychopaths and sociopaths. And their whole thing is about control.
Yeah.
And the fact is this, they don't need us anymore. The only reason the powers that be have kept us around this long, because they needed slave labor. With the advent of this, AI, robotic technologies coming in, those taking over more and more of the jobs. What does that do to us? What do we become to them now? Do you really think they give a flying crap about us? In the past, when they didn't need us, they killed us. They start wars, whatever. Well, now they have the technology to go ahead and poison our foods to kill us, to go ahead and have drone robots kill us. Yeah. So, you know, when I asked a Harvard professor out here one day in economics, I said, what is this going to do to the people you see walking around here right now in the next 10 years? And he says, well, about 50% of them will be out of work. I go, well, what are we going to do with all these out-of-work people? Without missing a beat, he said, in the past, we've killed you. That is what they recognize. This is what we're heading into. And if we don't grab a hold of this, that's why they're opening up the borders. They're opening up the borders here, too. We have the same problem you have. You know, you're getting from Africa and Eastern, you know, the Middle East, where they're opening up the borders to these people that come in. What are they bringing in? They're not bringing in their best or the brightest. They're bringing in their most radical. Well, here, you know, they're doing what? They're bringing in low-skilled, uneducated, illiterate. We don't... Well, you add that to this, and then you add in, you know, what is that going to create? It's going to create more and more chaos. Again, problem, reaction, solution. Create the problem, wait for the action. Then they have an excuse to come in with their militarization and put us down. They can release the drones and the poison vaccines and kill us all. These are the things you have to face that we're going into. There are books being written about it right now. Here's one I just finished. It'll scare the living crap out of you. Want to get yourself a copy of this?
All right.
I mean, this goes into about how the technology that they're bleeding into actually turning us into autonomous robots. Look, I remember when Texas Technology first came out with the calculator. You guys weren't even born yet. I used to be able to multiply in my head. I've lost that ability now. I gotta have a calculator. I used to remember phone numbers. Now I got a phone that does that. I'm actually losing my intelligence to what? Something I carry around in my hand? So as this gets deeper, they're using this technology to not, it's like the Wi-Fi goes into our computer. You got to remember, we're all receptacles too. We are electronic receptacles. We're receiving and transmitting information all the time. All the time. Not just through our mouths, but through everything we do. Well, they can tap into that with the new 5G technology. It comes in just like a Wi-Fi taps into your computer. They can tap into your brain. And now all of a sudden you're not thinking for yourself. All of a sudden you're and your cells are adapting to this. Our bodies are adapting to this. Like my brain adapted to not being able to multiply anymore. So we're adapting into this, and they're using this to turn us into these, like, autonomous drones.
What's Trump going to do about that?
Yeah.
I would have thought that...
Surely that's his nice.
I mean...
Well, this information, the guy that wrote that book, Parsa, gave this information to Trump over a year ago. So he's well aware of it.
But he hasn't done anything.
We don't know that. We don't know, what is being done. Who knows? He might be part of it for all I know. Who the hell knows? The point is, the information is out there. You have to decide what you're going to do with it and how you're going to fight it. Screw Trump. Let's find out what we have to do, because knowledge is power. Once we find out about this, because listen, they still are not full control. I'm out here doing what I'm doing. They ain't got me yet. You're still out here being able to think for yourselves. So we've got a short window here to go ahead and grab a hold of this and do something about it.
You were saying earlier that one of the issues is that we've got people coming in, with Brexit, that are causing issues in our country. And you also said that one of the issues is that we're being suppressed by the government, or they're attempting to suppress us.
Oh yeah, big time in England too.
So surely a unification within the people who aren't in control of the government would be a more effective way of combating the government rather than dividing us into our own. I mean, together we're stronger, surely, than instead of separating ourselves from all these different cultures, surely a combination would be far greater strength against the government than stopping all these people who want to be part of what is considered. I mean, the great American dream, all the people who come here from a foreign country are coming here to be a part of that. You're saying we need to preserve the American dream and not be oppressed by this government. We need our freedom. Surely by not allowing these people to partake in American freedom, you're stopping them from joining you in the fight against being oppressed by a government.
Yeah, but you don't have to, you don't have to lose your identity or your culture. That's not it. I mean, look, you're Spanish, you want to come over and maintain your Spanish culture and your identity in Spanish, fine. But the ideology of freedom and being an American is something you take in. But like with Sharia law, with Muslims and Hindus, that is it. In other words, there's no separation there. And there's no compatibility with Sharia law and the U.S. Constitution.
How much Sharia law is being practiced in the United States?
And more, it depends on what neighborhood you go to. I mean, right now they have patrols in New York. There was just in the paper the other day where they have patrols in New York where these Muslim Sharia law cop cars, I mean, look exactly like cop cars. Right. And you got the Muslim guys that, dressed in the, the basically police uniforms. And why they don't arrest these guys for impersonating cops, I have no idea, but, But you have neighborhoods in New York City now where these guys are driving around in these cars, enacting Sharia law. In other words, they're out there enforcing Sharia law on the streets of New York City. So this is incompatible with the American Constitution. So listen, they're not stupid. The Muslim people are very, very smart in how to take over a system.
Surely in the First Amendment, when it says free to practice any form of religion, which anybody wants to, the First Amendment of the Constitution.
As long as, the religion, fine, but you don't interject into the laws. The religion's fine, but when you bleed over into, law, in other words, look, Sharia law says, you can throw a gay off that building. Well, I'm sorry, that's not what we do here in the United States. It's incompatible with freedom. If you want to be gay, with hocus crap, right? Sharia law says you can't drink alcohol. Well, hell, go have a beer here. I don't care, if I do in Sharia law, you can't do that.
That implies that the people, so that to be part of the American dream, you have to drink a beer. Surely it's up to the person whether or not they drink a beer. They can still be part of the Muslim faith and choose not to drink beers. And it would also seem that if you were gay and Muslim, you would just choose not to be part of the community in which that's enforced. The whole point of America is it's a mixing pot. There's any number of options. If you are a gay Muslim, you can just decide, I don't want to be part of this community, I'm going to move. Or if you're a woman being oppressed, you can either choose to embrace it as part of your religion, that's what I think is right.
And Muslims do that.
Or if she doesn't like the oppression, because it's America and because we have these state police, they can go and say, hold on, I'm being oppressed, I want to move, and they move. Surely there comes a point where religion is voluntary in this country. You're not forced into it. If you choose, you can choose to the extent to which you are a Muslim. And if there comes a point in which you don't you're not. I mean, my friend here, his family's Muslim. He chooses not to eat pork. He chooses to eat pork, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop him because we live in a country where you can do what you like. So surely there comes a point at which everything must be embraced. But the point at which someone's being forced to do something, the state gets involved, and that gets eliminated.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. You have the choice. You should have the choice, right? Yeah. You should have the choice. But there are Muslims who would not give you that choice if they had it, right? I mean, they would stop you from doing that. I mean, and look, it's the same in Christianity. Sometimes there are Christians who will go, to the far extreme, right? But again, that's not when you try to push that in with and correct me if I'm wrong here, right? I mean, you're part of it, right? People are not rushing to go over to break into Saudi Arabia. They're not rushing over to get in to be part of that, society. Why? Because, you're if you're a woman, you can't drive a car. You got to walk behind your man. If you're gay, you're going to get killed. So people aren't going to go, they're not rushing to go over there. But radical Muslims will come over, and then they know how to be very good at playing the political system. Like here, they'll come over and take over a community. They'll come in and like 90% of them will move into an area, right? And 98% of the Muslims will then vote.
No worries.
I mean, they come in. So a small percentage of them can come into an area and then take over that area because they participate in the political system. And then when they get control, they can start enacting their radical, views and put them in there as law. Well, again, that, all right, you want to call that right? No, I don't see it, because, that's going to create, for the people that want freedom, like yourself, it's going to create a problem. Then it's going to come to a clash. So again, it comes to the clash of civilizations, which Brzezinski wrote about. So they could go ahead and create this problem and have us fighting with one another and not talking it out like this so we can gain control of it, about what they're doing. And then if we don't gain control of it, then they're going to gain control of us.
Do you not think that it's just natural? I mean, I'd imagine the conclusion that Brzezinski came to is that the cultures are incompatible. It's not like the Rothschild family has created Islam in order to kind of subvert Western democracy and create some sort of culture clash. That's just a natural process that has happened. There's no one controlling it.
Yeah, but they're not blind to seeing what that clash would do. Indeed, you're right. These natural, these areas go. But again, do what you want to do. If you want to go ahead and live in a Muslim community, Muslim culture, go ahead and do that. No one's stopping you from doing that. But if a Muslim,
you stop them doing it here.
Well, let's say Hitler won.
Right, but
then Hitler would force upon you his totalitarianism. And that's what any dictatorship or any, hardcore ideology might want to do, totalitarian regime might want to do. And I don't care how you dress it up, whether you call it, Nazism, whether you call it communism, whether you call it, Mao. I don't care what you call it. If it's going to take control over us as individuals, it's not a good thing. We have to remain free and individual.
Right, but totalitarianism and Islam are not the same thing. I mean, there's no part of the Quran that advocates for a totalitarianist state.
Again, there are radical Muslims that are totalitarian.
But there are radical denominations of every religion.
Well, indeed.
Radical Christians.
But the ones that are being used right now as pawns in the game are the Muslims. They're being used as pawns, just like all right, there's in 1964, there were two political scientists that were approached. They said, if you were going to bring down Western civilization, Western countries, how would you do it? And they says, well, you can't do it militarily because they're very strong. So what you would do is this. You infiltrate the school system, you infiltrate the military, and you put your people in there, and then you create a lot of little brush fire wars everywhere. And you create a lot of refugees. And then you play on the guilt of the host country, Western country, that started these brush fire wars. You open up the borders to these refugees, allow them to come into that host country, and you overwhelm the welfare systems, and you bring these countries down financially from the inside. So it's called Cloward and Pivot. Does it sound familiar, what's going on? In other words, you create brush fire wars everywhere, play on the guilt of the host countries, educate the kids saying, oh, we started those wars, you gotta feel sorry, you better feel guilty, or you better let these people in, or you're a racist. So they play on that. And then they allow these people to come in that we've been bonding for a couple of generations, who have animosity against us, and I don't blame them. And then they come in and they do what? You know, give us things for free, and they take us down financially from the inside.
Surely there's a large portion of people coming in. So America has bombed Asia, some parts of Eastern Asia, but they bombed the extremist factions. And you said yourself that people aren't rushing over there because they don't like the system that's in place. Surely the majority of people coming into this country are those who are trying to flee that system and who look at America as a safe place and a force that has attacked the system that has oppressed them systematically. So they see America as a place that has been upholding sort of a haven of freedom for them away from the system of oppression. I mean, like you said, no one's rushing to get there, they're rushing to get away. And surely those people rushing to get away are going to come to America for the freedom from oppression and therefore wouldn't wish to inflict it on the
one, I would say, this is what you started out, our smart farms are not very smart.
Well, I mean,
when we bombed Iraq, 90% of the people that we bombed were civilians.
That's true.
So we're killing. Remember, they kill a lot of. They don't give a damn. These are psychopaths and sociopaths. So they kill people at random. They don't give a damn. I was just reading a section in this book about here how they're the autonomous drones, how these guys sit in Nevada and, you know, bomb people in Afghanistan, and to them, you know, they call the kids little baby terrorists. And it says you have to put your, and the guy says you put your conscience aside, sort of, you can leave it out the door, and you wind up becoming sort of non-human because you're just, you know, they're just dots on a screen that you're killing. And that's what again, it gets back to us becoming part of a machine and losing our humanity. And this is what we're heading into. And again, what we have to get away from to keep our humanity, so we don't go around doing this. And we recognize people for who they are, what they are, love them for who they are and what they are, and allow them to keep their separate cultures, but at the same time not have these things hurt what we have spent a long time. Because from England, what do we get from England? We got a lot of great things from England. The Magna Carta, a lot of basic rules of law. You know, the right to see your oppressor, to confront your oppressor. These things came from England. They came from Western culture. So we embrace them. We don't want to lose them. But they want us to lose them. They're trying to get us to destroy it here. I mean, hell, we just had a president impeached. He never saw his accuser. Who's this whistleblower? We don't know. So this is like Kafkaesque that they're pushing on us. They're actually in our face pushing this star chamber, Kafkaesque. You can't see your... I mean, if they could do this to a president, what can they do to us? So if they get away with this, they're going to come down on us.
Sorry, were you saying that immigrants or Muslim immigrants to the US were responsible for Donald Trump's impeachment?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
It's the control.
Yeah, the powers that be now are. The powers that be are trying to go ahead and destroy our Constitution and our basic principles that England gave to us. You know, that we got from England. You know, these basic principles of being able to see your accuser. Like, you know, if you get accused of something, you know, you remember it's Kafka in the Star Chamber. You know, what am I being accused of? Who's charging me? Right? Well, that's what they're trying to do to our very president right now. I mean, we still don't know who this whistleblower was.
Isn't that the point, though?
What?
Well, to protect them. To protect their anonymity is pretty fundamental.
I mean, what? Protect them from what? Who the fuck is this guy? Well, I'm sorry. If the guy comes out, someone comes out and charges me with a crime, I want to know who that person is.
Yeah, but there are plenty of examples in Western democracies where witnesses are protected and actually accusers are.
Well, fine, let him come out. He's protected, for crying out loud.
No,
I mean,
we don't quite know what's happening behind those doors.
Well, there's risks and everything, but for crying out loud, to have someone charge you and you don't even know if that person exists, how do we know this guy even exists? How do we even know he's real? I mean, I'm charging you with rape because that guy over there said so.
Yeah, but it's being backed up by evidence. I mean,
Backed up by what?
Well, I'm just saying, like, the testimonies from
what?
I'm not
from
saying
professors,
well,
from people that weren't in the room.
Sondland, those sort of people. There is a story here, whether or not you believe that it's kind of impeachable.
It was all hearsay. Everything they brought up, there was only one fact witness in all those testimony. All the people testimony, there was only one fact witness, only one. And he said that Donald Trump, when asked, "What do you want from the Ukraine?" Nothing. So I don't want a damn thing. I don't want a damn thing from them. I just want them to go ahead and do what they say they were going to do, end the corruption. That's all I want. That was the only factual witness that was in the room when the phone call was made. All the rest of them were professors or people that used to work for them, weren't in the room at the time. So none of them there were factual. There's all opinion. This is my opinion of what happened.
That's one we got to get rid of.
In any trial, unless you find the smoking gun, there is going to be a debate as to what they thought happened and testimonies from people.
Yeah, but none of this stuff would be allowed in a trial. None of these witnesses that testify in Congress will be allowed in the Senate because they're not factual witnesses.
Right, well, let's see.
I think we're going to have to go.
We're going to have to go meet up with the rest of the group.
Oh, gentlemen, thank you very much. I love these kind of conversations. I hope you take what I said, look into it.
Take care.
You know.
All
right. God bless you.
So, how'd you feel about those guys? I don't know. They were good listeners, and I don't know what it says about the educational system over there. Great to hear how the kids are being raised, but certainly seems like I'd be hard put to find a group of American kids of that age to hold the attention span as long as they did. So I applaud them for being good conversationalists. And I don't know, I think I tapped a vein on a few of them there. All right. Thanks for stopping by. Remember, you know the routine. If you like it, you like it. If you care, you share. If you can, you contribute. Pray for Tommy. Pray for me. I'll pray back for you. And I'll see you on the streets.